And now we will talk about another important aspect about investments, right? And I showed earlier the picture for 2021 and the 2022, well, many years, but those particular 2 years were very interesting in terms of how 21 was so amazing with the first unicorn being born and some big guys raising some big rounds. And overall, it brought us to the historical high. And then this year, maybe not so impressive. So, but we will dive into this exactly. In a panel called VC Investment Outlook, Snakes or Ladders. And you know this little board game, I guess you all played in the childhood, Snakes and Ladders, and then you would go up and down, oftentimes wonder why. Was it just, you know, bad luck or something like that? So yes, this is exactly what we will speak about now. About the current investment terrain and how to live with it or in it or on it. And to moderate this panel, I will call on stage Andris Berzins, the powerhouse of our startup ecosystem, partner at Change Ventures, co-founder and board member at Startin.LV, so our association. Andris, please, yes, welcome. And as you settle in, please people come in, grab the seat. We don't want you to stand on your feet for the next panel. It's gonna be too joyful and too cool to just, you know, be tired on your feet. Do you want to find a place? You can do it now. Okay.
Yeah, come on in.
Yeah.
Thanks, Olga.
The floor is yours.
So I'd like to invite the panelists up on stage. Matiss, Ilona, Cyril, Artis. I think you're all here, which is the first step. Artis, where are you? Come on up. So thank you everyone. Ladies in the middle, exactly. So great to be here, great to see so many of you. And now I guess we're set up here because the joke is on the investors as the snakes up on stage, I guess. But there we go. Wanted to spend a little time talking about the investment landscape and start with, actually, we'll start with introductions because we have a number of people who are from different ends of the investment landscape here. For those of you who don't know me, I'm a partner at Change Ventures. We're a seed fund investing across the 3 Baltic states, everything pre-seed through seed. We have now 29 investments in our portfolio, a number of Latvian companies, Nordigan, whose exit we can congratulate. It just happened a few months ago. Was in our portfolio, Giraffe 360, Aarons, Asia. And so we are happy to be here and happy to support. So, Cyril, maybe you can start doing the introductions. I'll let each of you introduce yourselves and sort of what you do in the ecosystem, your role, and then we'll start from there.
Thank you, Andris. Good morning, everyone. Labrit. My name is Cyril Golub. Originally, I'm from Belarus, but the last year and a half, I'm residing here in Latvia. My own experience is quite plain and simple, 16 years of software development business, and then after exit, I started to do my own angel investments. I realized extremely quickly that the syndication is much more interesting than doing solo investment as a business angel. So I've been a co-founder of Lithuanian LatBAN, National Gathering of Business Angels, and National Network of Business Angels in Belarus, Angels Band. Today, I serve as a chairman of the board at LatBAN. So I think that my colleagues may say something different from my side, but I'm completely sure that the main role and the main word in the startup world is a founder, not investor. So from my perspective, founders should be sitting here and talking to us, not we to him.
Yeah, thanks. Hello, everyone. My name is Ilona Skribina, and I'm leading private equity and venture capital investments in the national promotional institution ALTUM. And so in this panel, as opposed to other speakers, I will be representing one level further from the startups and the companies. We actually are investing in the VC funds and not the startups themselves. So a little bit different angle from the rest. And currently our portfolio of all the investments and the assets under management that have been invested in the VC world and also in the private equity stands around 120 million euros. Impressive for the Latvian economy amount, I would say, and more money will be coming, but maybe we'll touch upon that a little bit later.
Hi, beautiful panel. Hi, beautiful people. Haven't been out on the stage for 3 years now, so it's really exciting for me. So I'm also going to watch my language if some of you know me. For those of you who do know me, you probably know me as a co-founder of Printify. However, today I'm here as, my name's Artis, by the way, and I'm a founding member of BADideas.fund. And so what really is BADideas.fund? First of all, some founders in the Baltic region, we thought that maybe other founders should be able to raise their pre-seed and seed capital from guys in Jordans and hoodies, and maybe not from suits and shoes, and maybe from somebody who can, who have done a simple growth chart or have implemented some OKRs or even written them down. So we thought that would be a good opportunity for future founders. So what we did, we came together and we created this really cool initiative, BADideas.fund, which initially is angel investor syndicate. We're only 5 months young in the market. However, we do have 90 members in our network, which are founders and operators of some of the coolest and best performing startups in the region. And we came together to help the next future founders and startups to become, whoever they want to become the future success stories. So we invest in pre-seed and seed stage. We've done 5 investments until now. From our members, we have over 4 million in soft commitments, and we have already deployed 500,000 into two Estonian, 1 Latvian, 1 Lithuanian, 1 Ukrainian startups. So really, where we are in the space, we're trying to be the investors that we wanted when we were fundraising. So that's us, BADideas.fund.
Thanks, Artis. Matiss?
Yes. Hello, everyone. My name is Matiss. I'm managing partner of Buildit accelerator, hardware accelerator. So what we do, we like to work with startups who can put real products on the table, so something tangible. So we don't say no to software companies, but we prefer to work with the hardware, just because I like real things. We also do pre-seed and seed, whatever it means. In our world, it means up to 50,000 in pre-seed and up to 200 in seed. I have no idea what you are talking about, so your pre-seed maybe is 2 times more than our seed. What we do, we help early stage startups to become investable, so that with this small money, we help them to come up with something tangible, something they can show to other investors, like, for instance, Change Ventures. So this is what we do. Thank you.
Thank you. So the first topic we want to cover is sort of, what's happening in the investment environment. And I guess, Ilona, we'll wait for you because you're not an active investor in startups directly, but for the others, wanted to sort of poll your sense of what's happening. And I'll start by introducing sort of our sense of what we see happening in, starting globally. So it won't be surprised to any of you that globally the VC investment industry is in, I wouldn't say a crisis, but I would say a very abrupt change. So the stock markets and the stock markets dropping dramatically means the growth stage investors who are doing Series B and beyond rounds, many of them have invested in companies which now look like the valuations were insane, and so for those of you who don't know venture funds up close, which is probably most of you, what that basically means is that you've done a bunch of investments, you've told your investors these were fantastic companies you backed at great prices, it was a good idea to do this, deal at, $1 billion and whatever. And then 6 months later, you have to come back to those same investors who invested in your fund and say, well, actually, the price was a bit high and we actually have to write off this investment by half or even more. That's a very, very, very painful conversation for any fund manager to have. And so that's what's happening in the growth part of the industry all over. And what that means is that they're like deer in the headlights, stopping investing, or no, they're looking all the time, but by and large, many deals are not happening. And they're now, what we see in the market is we see growth stage investors being very aggressive with terms, I think partly to try and prove to their investors that they're now being responsible about investing. But that means that end of the market is very difficult. And that's feeding down into Series A and into seed and even pre-seed. So investors are slowing down. And the way I describe it to founders is, put yourself in the seat of a fund manager. And you're looking at the economy in the next 6 months or a year. And actually, right now, you have no idea whether it's going to get way worse or kind of bottom out and get better. And so, there's not much incentive to deploy money now. So there's record amount of capital committed and raised in funds, but it's much slower coming out, at least from what we're seeing. But I would love to get your sense of what you're seeing in terms of companies, more companies, less companies. Like last year was a banner year in Latvia. We had a whole bunch of huge funding rounds, unicorn, but still, who wants to start?
Okay, I will start. What happened last year? Nothing much. We just made some investments. I think it's more interesting to compare different years. So if you look back, we started to work in Latvia in 2018. At that time, we were actively looking for foreign startups. But just because if you take statistics, in Latvia, there's 1.8 million people, I think. So it's pretty difficult to find enough hardware startups here in Latvia. So we were open for startups from abroad. And in the first 2 years, half of our investments went to foreign founded companies, foreigners. So in the last 2 years, all our investments went to Latvian companies. And there is just a question, why? Don't we like any more foreigners? No, we like, but for some reasons, they don't, they have some challenges to start business here in Latvia. So this is what happened in our life. So we have to solve some challenges. How can we deploy the money only in local companies? Also, what Andris said, so the valuations. So at least in my world, when we talk about small investments, the real valuations goes up dramatically. Yeah, I remember in the beginning, so we invested that 700,000-800,000 maybe in best cases when indeed the company already had almost a ready product. So it was nice. Now the companies comes to us and they say, okay, maybe 1 million, not less, and actually they don't have anything. But at the same time, we don't have much choice because there are other investors who give the money at such terms. So what can we do? So this is one of the challenges what we have faced. So there is too much money in the market, I would say, at least on the early stage. These are my feelings. So it's nice to be in the startup side.
Right. I'll go next. Similarly, I would have to, a year is probably not something we could look at where much has changed. And in pre-seed first of all, I'm doing this for less than a year, right? So I can't really follow much on that. But valuations are kind of the same. The pitches are becoming much, much stronger. And I guess it's also due to some maturities that we're just seeing in the ecosystem itself. And the way how I would probably characterize it, similarly to our grandmothers in the Industrial Revolution, where they just had to, work for survival and have a shitty boss. We had these first ever generation startups where we spin off, shitty email services and local social networks, whatnot. But there was absence of investment, absence of mentorship, absence of product management processes, so everybody just kind of tried to survive as a startup. Then this next generation came along where I would put, you know, companies like Nordigen, Printify, Localize, Whimsicals that kind of set already this standard in the last 4 to 5 years, you know, that, hey, we should have stock options in place, we should have all these benefits, all these processes, right? But it was kind of like the standard of running a startup. We didn't do anything magical at Printify. We just did the standards that already existed somewhere else. And what we're seeing now, and this is also like what drove BADideas.fund to be established, is these future founders that are now kind of, they already been at the these success stories, you know, they learn how to do the flows, they learn from the best leaders, they already have this stuff, so they can come out now and they can create this quality of startup life. They create better, like, quality opportunities, quality roles, quality ownership, quality learning and quality reward for the creativity and passion and you know, that the talent is bringing to their startups. So this really comes back to unicorns create more unicorns, right? And I think we were finally in that maturity stage in Latvia where we're seeing some really, really good founders spinning off companies, coming out of established startup companies. And I think those are going to be those future unicorns that we're looking for. And hopefully we can identify them and invest in them.
Super. Thanks.
Artis, sorry, you asked about what has changed in comparison with the
So I
previous.
understand you're
2 years.
relatively new in, but
I keep close eyes on the whole ecosystem and the deals in Baltics as well. So speaking on numbers, nothing, almost nothing has changed. You know that money are still on the table. Money are not way cheap as it was, let's say, a year ago, but it's still quite cheap. You know that rates are quite low, and they will be comparatively low during all the next year. But the early stage investment is not a game of numbers. It's a game of sentiment and expectations. When we are doing investment in the early stage round, let's say pre-seed or seed, we should expect at least 10x return, let's say in 5 years, maybe a bit less, maybe more, longer, but 10x is the minimum. But 5 years, who could say what will be in the next 5 years? Maybe the valuations will go much higher than it was, let's say, in 2020 or 21. Maybe the unicorn will not be a term, decacorn will also not be a term, but let's say centicorn will be quite a good valuation for a company. So no one can say what is the good or bad valuation for today. But if you as a startup founder can build a trust, a sentiment in the eyes of the investors that you are a very interesting target to invest in, that's quite okay. So nothing has changed in this area.
thanks. And I guess then to follow up on a point Matiss mentioned around the number of companies, the number of startups that you can invest in, and I guess the implication sort of what you said was that initially when you started, you were actually doing investments a lot outside the Baltics, partly because there wasn't enough startups to invest in here. And so I want to follow up on that point. Is that what you meant? And, you know, just for reference, you know, Change Ventures, we do a deal analysis, and I think the numbers were in the second half of last year was only around 7 pre-seed deals and 3 seed deals in Latvia, which is not a huge number, a lot less than our neighbors. So Matiss, do you see that as a problem?
No, of course. It's not a challenge, it's a problem. And
Okay, so fine. So do you have any suggestions for what's going to fix it?
yes, one thing is we should look more for opportunities and not to be focused so much on the risks. So because yes, one of the reasons is what why we are limited to right now to invest only in Latvian companies, because this is our agreement with our investors, so that in the first step we can invest only in a company that is registered in Latvia. So this is a challenge. So the foreigners, for them, it's easy to open a company here, but if they have to open a bank account, for instance, it's a little bit problematic in the last 2 years. So that's why the foreigners, so they prefer to go to other countries, so to take investment from other similar organizations, so who are maybe not asking such things like they have to incorporate in this or another country. So this is the problem, yes, for us.
Yeah, and Ilona already understood. I'm going to come to her next. Maybe you can tell a little more about what ALTUM is planning to do in order to help fix this problem.
Yeah, thanks. So, well, geography, I think it's a major issue that we have to understand and tackle all the ecosystem together, because this initial requirement, so to say, is coming from the government, because as Olga was also showing the statistics and the numbers in the beginning of this startup day to day, then of course the government is requiring for money coming back to Latvia. But there are multiple ways on how this can be happening, and not only through the taxes, which is a very simple way on how calculating it. But let me get a little bit on a different angle. So it was already mentioned that the liquidity is there in the market. Also, it was mentioned that the macroeconomics and turmoil might actually bring some changes to the investment arena, and maybe some lower investment activity might take place. And here I must say that such institutions, local and international ones, that development institutions should stay within the market, and should still continue providing this funding. And therefore, also from ALTUM's side, in the next period, we are planning to continue providing funding for the ecosystem as such. Already now, if we are looking at the committed capital solely from ALTUM, that is available for different funds directly, and also from through the fund of fund structures through Baltic Innovation Fund T, it's around 70 million euros, and this money at the moment is already available for the investments, and the investment period for the VC funds managing those means are having investment period is until 2024 for majority of them. So for the next 2.5 years, there's quite a lot of liquidity available. After that, we are planning to launch as an anchor investor, planning to launch a call for GPs to apply to manage next 5 VC funds, and the total amount that will be available from ALTUM's side is more than 90 million euros. So continuing on that, we also will be addressing the issue that valuations have been on the high end lately, and also the value of the money decreases through inflation. So the tickets for the pre-seed investments will be raised from what Matiss mentioned, from 50K to 2,050K, and the seeds will be 1.5 million euros. So having said that, I will just continue emphasizing that the liquidity will be there, and then the funding is not an issue, and unlikely to be an issue in the upcoming period. Of course, the conditions for this money are a little bit more strict, so to say, if compared to private investments, but this is actually a double-edged sword in a way, because in the previous generations and 3.5 generations that have been operating were under ALTUM co-investments, the funds have been majorly focused on building the ecosystem, building the startups, but the returns are not yet there. So there is no free of unconditioned money to invest further, and to give opportunity for funds to invest invest more freely with less geographical or other restrictions. So it's also, like some home task from all ecosystem players to find the ways how to make less restrictions, but also to find the very opportunities for VC funds to invest and also to bring the returns. Like I would be really happy to see returns 10 times. Well, currently it's far from that. And also talking about the I think it's has been a lot of discussion already today, and it's not a secret that one of the major things here in Latvia to boost the growth of our ecosystems, actually the lack of investment opportunities. And those investment opportunities at the beginning of this day today, it was also like shown that major concentration of our startups are working in software development, in hardware development, but then where are deep techs, where are life science companies, something that is adding additional value to the ecosystem. So I think we need to try to specialize more and to be able to compete not only on the local level, on the Baltic level, but on the globally in general. And this can only come with a high value added. And of course, the root cause for the problematics of has been already broadly discussed in the previous panel is education, talent, and this is the thing that we somehow have to tackle all together.
Thanks, Ilona, and Kirill, maybe to you then, in terms of, following on from the comment about the lack of, say, deep tech startups, is that something that you're seeing?
Thank you, but let me first touch another side of the story that Ilona told. You know that we are talking about different word of return. For you and for me, return is our money back to our bank account. But for governmental financial institution, return is not getting his money back. It's getting more jobs in the country, more taxes, more GDP and GDP per capita. It's not the question, here our 10 million euro and we want back 11 or 12. It should be sound, here our 10 million euro and please create 1,000 new jobs and they have to pay, let's say, 10 million of taxes.
Yeah, though a good fund should return the money and some more, the problem is it takes longer. So it's so I can tell you the Change Ventures LPs are not yet clear on whether we're going to return them fantastic money because it's too early, right? So it just takes a lot of years.
And asking your question about deep tech startups, it's a tricky question, that if you see what are the unicorns in Europe or in the United States, you hardly can see much deep tech startups there. Most of them are not deep tech, but let's say innovations in a way of doing business, not doing any kind of technical sciences, technical things and anything else.
Yeah, question is whether that's going to change in the next 10 years.
Who can say?
There's a lot of deep
Definitely not me and maybe not you.
Okay. Matiss, back to you then, since you're in hardware and closer to the deep tech end.
Yes, I agree. Who knows what will happen in the future? But why we like to work with the hardware? Just because we like to do the things where we understand something. So I think this is the reason also from the business perspective, this is a competition to be in the VC side. So there are a lot of investors who likes to invest in the software companies, not too many who wants to work with the hardware companies. Yes, it's a little bit challenging to work with the hardware companies. But I believe that in coming years there will be some also unicorns from the hardware side. I believe. I don't have any good arguments.
Okay, so at this stage, question is whether there are any questions from the audience. We have a bunch of investors on stage, and you can feel free to pummel them with absolutely anything. So there are a question over there. Someone can help walk a microphone around. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for this meeting. It's wonderful to hear your opinions about what happened in Baltic states, especially in Latvia. I represent biotech and medtech. So technically, it's a more specific topic.
Deep tech
yes?
is in the house, great.
Yeah, but what I'm talking about is the major problem is with the quality of the evaluation. We are a small country. Of course, we're larger than Israel, etc., but still we are a small country with a small amount of specialists in the field. And the question lies in how we can provide a better evaluation of companies. This is the first question what I would like to ask, just because, for instance, I have some ideas, and yesterday I was on the big conference, BGI conference, where we have seen wonderful examples of new technologies. But the question is how we can here evaluate it. Moving towards to Berlin, etc. So this is the first question I would like to ask. And the second is the ecosystem of in my field, like in healthcare, yes, and in healthcare startups. The question lies, how many companies do we have? And many colleagues, investors asks, is there any portfolio? Does everybody knows what happens here? So of course, somebody knows like Longenesis or Cellbox Labs or like some educational companies like Axonicus and Anatomy Next. But in general, yes, the problem lies in the ecosystem. Is there any exactly like companies or not? Like everybody understands somebody is there, but how exactly we can present it to people who are wanting to invest money? Thank you.
So does anyone want to take that?
Like, totally not my field, but, you know, this is a stage, so I'm just going to try to wing it. So I'm not sure also I understood your question correctly, but I have a comment on what you said. So you said, how can you expose health tech companies better to investors so they know about them? Yes? It's the first one. Okay, so here's the thing. So if you're a health tech company, I would say it's your job. And first of all, you should answer to yourself why nobody knows you in the market and what would be the reasons why somebody should know you in the market. And most likely your answers will come back to recruitment because you're having recruitment challenges. And if nobody knows about you, if nobody knows how much you raised or what investors you have or what cool shit you're building, then why the fuck should I go work for you, right? So that's a big part is actually on you to build your profile, to make what you stand for heard, bring out your values, communicate them, and that's like a bigger start. And a bunch of your money will actually be going into this because you're going to be looking for that talent to recruit for your company. So I think it's much more on the company side than it is, oh, how can I get investors to look at me in a more better, sexier way?
Yeah, and if I can comment from our side, so we're a generalist fund. We invest across consumer, B2B, some hardware, and I get, for example, emails, I don't know, on an oncology startup doing a new cancer treatment. Even people look at me and think I'm a big seed fund. We're a small seed fund. We don't even have the resources to figure out, like it would take me a week of my own work trying to talk to people and to figure out, is it even worth my time looking at this? Is it already something that 10 other people have done, or is it something truly unique? If it's unique, is it even scalable? Right, all these questions are very specific, very technical, which is why we're very honest with a bunch of startups that come to us and say, we simply don't have the skills or resources to evaluate this, right? So we don't even know how to answer you. That said, what I can, in terms of encouraging words, I can tell you that in the last 10, 15 years, the investment landscape has changed dramatically, especially during the pandemic, and vertical specific investors are much, much more ready to go all over the planet to look for investments. And, you know, it used to be that, you know, people were only investing around the corner and only if they could meet you and so forth. But it's just like Artis says, you need to reach out and find your ways of connecting with people who do understand what you're doing. And so one of the main pieces of advice I give to really early teams about getting angel investors is saying, you know, there are great angel investors here, but don't limit yourself with what's here. Because if you can find an angel investor who knows your field very, very well and reach them and they're in Sweden or in America or in Australia, if they actually understand what you're doing and you're doing anything that's actually really, really worthwhile investing in, you should get an answer even from a cold email, right? So, don't limit yourselves to what's here. The investing landscape is dramatically different than it used to be. I don't know, any other comments on this? Sorry, more questions. Great.
My name is Mihail Stepanskis. I'm CEO and co-founder of Sinus simulation software company. Let me be a bit provocative and reflect on what I heard today. So the question was whether there will be a future of deep tech startups in Latvia or not. And at the same time, what I hear here, that you don't know the future. In my understanding, I'm not very, very, very familiar with the VC business. I'm not VC at all. But in my understanding, like VC is about like you have the model of future. You believe in the future and then you invest in those who will fulfill that future. If you don't have this belief and you don't know the future, there will be no future then. So we are betting our lives and founders, our lives and our careers. You are betting money. So let me ask you again. What will be the future? Just tell us. I was provocative.
You want me to take this, Michael? So the answer is I don't know. And if I knew, I'd be lying to you, right? So I don't know. However, so every single investment we make is we are processing the view of the future in a particular field that the founders are giving us, right? Which is, what Artis was saying, like you have to communicate what you think is going to happen, why it's going to happen, and why you're going to be in a position to take advantage of it and build a great business around it. We're processing the information of what the founders are telling us and then making a decision of whether we believe we want to back that view of the future. That said, sort of relating to my previous comment, the world of investing has changed a lot, and even among LatBAN or in Artis' syndicate, there may be individual angels or VC funds who are very specialized who do have a very specific view of the future in some specific space, right? So there are investors in quantum, right? So if you're in quantum technologies, there are investors out there who spend all day long just looking at quantum technologies and trying to find the best investments to make, right? They will have a view of the future on quantum. Big funds, the Andrisens of the world, the Sequoias, the indexes, etc., will spend a lot of resources on having a view of the future in a specific space on a regular basis. But you can also find those people. So if you're I don't know, you're in HR software, I bet you can find someone in one of the big VC funds around the world that in the last 2 years has written a blog post or done an evaluation of what's going to happen with HR software, and you can reach out to that person and try and get an intro, right? And so you can find people who have very specific views of the future, but it's not all investors. That's my answer, at least. I don't know.
I love provocative questions because we can answer in a not so polite way. So please, let me unveil one very important secret, but please don't tell anyone else. In the VC world, I am not talking about angel investment, but about funds. VC funds, GP and funds manager have no vision about the future themselves. They are just answering the demand from financial market. What does it mean? I hope that no one is really believe that Web3 and blockchain is the future, let's say, not only of the internet, but of the whole world. Of course, there are so few number of fool people, but it is a great demand on investing in such kind of startups. That's why American funds raise billions in real cash to invest in Web3. So, you as a startup founders are the visionaries. And we as investors are just following your vision. And the main question is, are we trusting in your vision? And then after getting some trust with you personally and with your vision, we can bet some money from our funds or from our own capitals to get a little bet on your particular startups. That's all.
And if I can add only, so yes, Michael, good question. So, but you somehow are putting responsibility to other side. So someone needs to tell you where the future will be. But about us, yes, we as investors, if we believe in one or another business idea, we join. So for instance, we believe autonomous kitchens. So, and we invested in this business because we believe that the fast food will be prepared by robots, so not by the humans. So, but it depends case by case. So, and there are cases where we don't believe. So, and that's it. So, thank you.
And let me add just one final comment on that. It's also, if you think about an investor, in particular a VC fund. So for those of you who don't know, most VC funds are called closed-end funds. They actually have a limited time frame. So like we raise money, in 2022, you basically have to have sold the positions you've invested in by 2032 or latest 2034, and return the money, with whatever profits you make to investors. That also means one of the parts of that calculation is, even if you believe that, I don't know, robots will take over fast food industry, fast food preparation, there may be investors out there who believe that this will happen, but it won't happen until 2040. In which case they may not invest in your startup in 2022 because they simply believe it's too early, right? So that's another question. It's a question for founders as well, right? You have to think about, is this the right time that I will be able to make this change happen? But that's a very relevant calculation that investors are trying to make. So there's one question over there. Where's the mic? Thank you very much. The ad hoc mic service, thank you.
Hi, my name is Ilona and I represent the agri-food and agri-tech sector. And my question is related to that. I have faced several challenges with investments to this sector, as we have quite a lot of startups. We know that they're accelerating in the Nordics, so big potential sector. But when I started to look for investors within Latvia, whom at least to invite to the events to present the opportunities in the sector and already potentially very high value startups, so I actually saw no interest in Latvia, that this sector is not considered, at least yet. So my question would be, how can we get, as an ecosystem representatives, a bit more interest from the investors network, maybe try to expand the interests of the network, because obviously we can only invite the investors from the Nordics, but how can we, let's say, have an impact also from Latvia? Thank you.
Yeah, can you just clarify, so I understand, what do you mean by agri-food startups? What kind of startups, what kind of products?
Yeah, there are different sides. Maybe the well-known side is the software in the agri-food sector. For example, digital technology, data-based solutions in the agriculture network on how to harvest or how to better use it on the field. But there is also a different part of it as a sustainable aquaculture, water innovations, alternative proteins and plant-based solutions, cultivated meat. So a lot.
Thank you.
That's not my field of expertise, but even I know that a number of startups in this field you particularly mean has raised significant number of funds, especially here in Latvia. Just a few examples. Green Growth during this summer raised more than 200K from New Nordic Ventures. Weedbot raised almost 500,000 from angels a year or 2 years ago. And just another example which doesn't relate to Baltics. One Soil, Belarusian startup who is doing big data in the satellite photos to the agricultural fields. They raised more than 5 million during the pandemic years from Almaz Capital. And currently in my own particular pipeline, there are a lot of, let's say, tenth of startups who are related to the field you mentioned. So we have funds, we have angel syndicates and startups in this field, and the fundraising is doing comparatively well.
Yeah.
So am I correct that the interest is growing?
So you need to talk to Cyril, the first step.
Not only, actually, I'm rather surprised to hear that feedback from you that you are not seeing any interest in the field because, well, agriculture is becoming one of the most perspective and also challenging industries. So for sure, innovation should be there. And I also know certain startups that have raised with the funds, with the fund managers who are working here in Latvia. E-agronom, then alternatives plans that is in Matiss portfolio. So there is quite a lot of interest. So maybe the question and the challenges that you are facing are arising on how you are preparing your pitch decks and then how you're addressing your investors. So therefore it's an opportunity for you actually to talk to us maybe after the session and show us what's in your pitch decks, and then let's see. I'm quite sure that interest is there, and yeah.
So some optimism. So
Yeah, I just wanted to add the same. I mean, fundraising, it's an art of storytelling, and just check your story, check your team. Maybe your story is shit, maybe your team is shit, maybe your traction is shit, maybe your product, but something might be shit. So just check what's shit and come back with a better story.
So
I'll give feedback to those startups, right?
there you go. So anyone else have questions? Who's next? There's one right next to you. Fantastic.
My name is Angel. Also, I'm in the agri-tech sector. Actually, I wanted to know more about the mandates from the VC perspective, because usually when we are raising funds, the limitation for us is the most likely entrepreneurs that we don't know, or we're not familiar about the mandates, how the mandates work. So for us to knock the proper doors and make things easier, don't make you guys lose time, or maybe look for the proper fit. What would your suggestion will be to try to target the specific VCs or firms that align to the mandates or the regulations that you're looking for?
Yeah, so
as a general question, sorry.
This is a great question, and I'll take the opportunity to answer first. So I can't tell you how many bloody emails I get from Turkish, Polish, Spanish, American startups, pitching me, British startups, like every bloody day. And for the first, I think, 2 years of the fund, I kept answering saying, I'm sorry, we don't invest in the UK, we don't invest in Spain. I've given up. Like our website is pretty bloody clear. We back ambitious Baltic founders. Or okay, the Polish guys I can sort of give a little break to because they consider Poland Baltic. But if they read further down the website, it's pretty damn obvious. Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, right? It's frustrating for investors to get lots of inbound email from startups who have not bothered to actually look up what that investor is investing in, where they're investing in, right? And actually, if I have feedback for startups, do your homework, and you are much better off sending, especially if you're trying to get a cold connection, you don't have an intro to an investor, but in general, you're much better reaching out to 20 investors who you have actually researched and you understand they invest in your industry, in your stage, right? And you can actually see on Crunchbase. Crunchbase is has some crappy data, but generally you can get a picture of what these investors are investing in. Angels are often public about what they've invested in, right? It's on their LinkedIn pages or whatever, right? So if you do research, you have a much, much higher hit rate targeting investors who actually might be interested in investing in your company, your stage, your industry, your category. And then because you can actually formulate for them a reason why this might be a fit for their investment interests, right? As opposed to a blanket email to which you will mostly get people like me clicking delete because it's simply not relevant for what we do. So, sorry about the rant, but...
I can fully agree, Andris, on what you said. Anything but the exact number. 20 emails for 20 funds are far not enough.
Yeah, so
200 targeted emails to targeted funds who are investing on your stage, on your geography, and let's say on your vertical. It's quite enough. From this, you will get at least 50 calls with associates or analytics, 10 or maybe 20 calls with partners, and 3 or 5 term sheets. That's quite good.
Since this panel is coming to an end, and I'm a hustler, and ABC, you should always be closing. Here's a value prop by BADideas.fund. So we're backed by 90 founders and operators of the best regional companies. And guess what? We all raised money. And guess what? We all know those investors. So if we do invest in you, what's the first thing startups ask from us? Hey, can you do intros? And guess what? If you have 20 guys who have kind of chipped in 100K to put in your startup, we all making these intros. So that's kind of for those startups out there who are like, oh, I don't really know that many angel investors. We do. You know, we do know the VCs, so please apply to us. We do look through. We do have the time. We do care. So BADideas.fund, and we'll get you connected. There's a solution for you guys.
You didn't answer the question, though.
What was the question?
The question was about targeting investors and how do you find the right ones.
So target BADideas.fund website, and we'll help you target investors.
All of you startups out there, so you can send me emails. If it's not relevant for me, I'll delete. But he's going to take all of them. He's going to open all of them, and they're going to look through all of them. So I think we do have time for one more. If someone wants to be the last person to ask a question. Yes. One down the back there. I'm really happy we have so many questions. This is much more interesting than us just blabbering on with the usual crap.
Andris, it's because you didn't make the slides, though.
Yeah, it's because I didn't bother to do slides, of course.
Okay, last one will be more philosophical question. I'm Ilona, CEO of Buildit, so agriculture company. But the question would be regarding tectonic changes in the VC world. So as we are used to have large multiples expected from the startups, and we know that the majority of startups will fail, which is kind of painful for the founders and CEOs because you put a lot of your time and effort in that, and at the end you fail. Do you see possibility to lower the expectations, lower the multiples that the VCs would like to see, in such a way that we get more successful companies out of the startup world and less mentally breakdown founders who would most probably build a quite okay company, maybe not a unicorn? So would you like to see startup world with more zebras and less unicorns in it?
You want me to take it?
So actually, so the answer is no. And I'm not just being an asshole, but as a VC fund manager, our math is pretty straightforward, right? So VC is a relative to investing in bonds, equities, real estate, or other financial instruments. Investing in a VC fund is a relatively high-risk investment, and our investors expect to get at least 3 times their money back if we do well. Okay? In order to get 3 times the money back, we have to build a portfolio of investments where probably out of, let's say in this current fund, we're going to do about 20-something investments. We're expecting that perhaps 2-3 of them return a lot of money to our investors because they're great investments. Many of them will return some, and a whole bunch of them will not return anything. That math means that we cannot invest in anything that we do not believe will have at least a 10x potential for return. There's no other way the math works for a VC fund. Now, that doesn't mean that, there won't be a good return, that the founders are happy with that isn't a 10x return, but there needs to be something else in the portfolio that will then return a lot more money to our investors. That's VC fund math, and what that does mean is it puts, the onus on the founders to be comfortable with the fact that you're going to have to be aggressive and ambitious about building something very big, because that's the only way you're going to be able to return something very big.
There's a question, this math is from other VCs a challenge, this math is wrong, so this is why I'm asking you, because at least me, see this change in mindset of VCs all over the world in other countries, so just to know what our local VC is thinking.
Change, what change, like in the last year?
Last year or so, starting from the COVID crisis.
So what I can tell you is what's changed in the last year is, I would talk to top value funds, a year ago, and their attitude was basically, we will find the best companies, we will invest whatever the price, because we think that there's going to be these, decacorns out there and centacorns, and everything's just going to be rosy, and it's not that way. Okay, so what's happening is the VCs are adjusting their exit expectations. So the expectation that a significant percentage of your investments could end up being unicorns was an illusion. It's very, 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 excuse me, I can use the F word, it's really hard to build a unicorn, right? It's an exceptional outcome. And so as an investor, you need to be comfortable that many of your investments will not reach that state. So that's tough math, but it's reality.
Yes, Andris, for VC, tough math.
Easier for angels.
So, first of all, there's an investor for every business out there, big or small, boring or hyper-growth. Somebody will fucking invest in you, right? So don't worry about that. Second of all, you're gonna have to manage expectations. So obviously VCs do the math and, they need their one-hit wonder to cover the whole fund. A little bit easier with angels down here, because we're just happy if we come in so early and we help you so much, and if you can bring us some liquidity at Series A, we're super happy, right? So just bring us through then. However, as Andris said, building unicorns is really, really tough. One of the startups I founded, we've been chasing that dream for 7 years, and trust me, man, it doesn't come easy. However, what came pretty easy was a $100 million company. Well, now looking back at it, and I think if you just strive to become a really, really good $100 million or euro company, you will figure it out post. Is there a way for you to become a unicorn? But 100 million companies are really, really sexy, and I think those are achievable, and investors will be happy to invest if you can show this hockey stick how you get to 100 mil.
If I can...
May I just jump quick? Right? Okay.
Go on.
Okay, Matiss.
Okay, I will use the opportunity. I'm on the stage. So my comment on that, so I don't care how much money we will lose. I care how much money we will earn. So simple math.
But I just simply want to remind, actually, there is a lot of hype around VCs. You guys can be bloody wrong with your guess what will be 10x, what will be not. You realize that, right?
Absolutely. We're actually mostly wrong. Right. Mikhail, we're mostly wrong.
Oh, bad for you. But what I want to say that beside VC, there are tons of other opportunities. Like if you are deep tech startup with very patient fund, so you can go EIC funding. So European Commission just invest, and they believe this is a mission. So then angels, and so on. Just shouldn't be always VCs, and VCs might be wrong. And why you just spend your time dealing with these guys who don't believe in you, and that just think like that.
We're definitely often wrong. So with that, I think we'll wrap up the panel because our time is up. So I will hand back over to Olga, but thank you, panelists.